Good afternoon, good evening, Niner faithful. Welcome to another episode of Between Two Beards. As always, I am one of your hosts here, Rob Schuh, and to my right, I guess that is, is Randon McMahon, the other host of Between Two Beards. Randon, how you doing today, man?
Doing fantastic, man. Been a long day. Like I told you before we came on, I might have to decide whether I'm renewing my lease or not. So that's always stressful. A couple job interviews, all this kind of stuff, and then the Niners never fail to take a couple years off my life with how they win games. So
Yes.
doing pretty good.
They do, in fact, make that stress level high. Yeah, I was, as you know, I was in Green Bay. I was in the frozen tundra. I feel like I'm just now thawing out. It was definitely cold. Definitely left my skinny ass with a chill to the bone. No question about it. And it felt as if maybe things weren't going to go our way. That game unfolded in such a fashion that it left you with a little bit of doubt. But I have said this on the broadcast multiple times that it was halftime and I was surrounded by all these Packers fans. And shout out to the Packers fans because they were amazing. I mean, they were just so welcoming. They all, said, hey, welcome to Lambeau. They were all just so warm in greeting 49er faithful. But I was sitting there sandwiched in between some Packers families. I looked up and the snow was falling and it was just too picturesque not to believe that the Niners were going to win that one. And sure enough, they did. But in true heart-stopping fashion. And that's the way it turned out. You playing with the hat? I
was trying to. I was like, hey, man, my face is like halfway. Like I look like I'm Zorro or something. But no, I wanted to ask you about that. One, did you get your cheese curds? And two, I've been to plenty of baseball stadiums and like Wrigley and Fenway. Like it feels old. Like you feel the ghost of players past. Like, did you feel like, Lombardi out there while you were on the field? Like all the old Tundra games and the ice? Like, did it have that kind of mentality when you were there?
I know it sounds stupid, but it really did. Like, honestly, I walked into that building and you felt the history. You felt the significance of it. You felt the richness of the tapestry. I relate it to, maybe this is going a hair too far, but I had a wonderful vacation in Italy years ago. I think it was 2016. And we went to a bunch of museums there. And, a lot of the artwork from back in the day is like, Jesus, baby Jesus. Like it's a lot. It's a common theme. And so You're walking around and you see all these paintings and you're like, well, just the one bleeds into the next. I'm walking through the rooms. I come across yet another painting of baby Jesus that was wonderful, like all the ones before it, but it struck me. I mean, it just called to me. And I looked over at the placard. Sure enough, it was painted by Michelangelo. And you just felt it. You felt the significance of the piece. You felt the historical context of it. And that's how Lambeau felt to me.
That's good. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed Fenway. Like you just felt it there, like the atmosphere. It was just kind of a different, just completely different, and it didn't hurt that the fact that we went down to the first row for batting practice and the people never came for their seats. So we spent the whole game in the first row.
Ooh, that's spectacular.
Just the whole thing was just epic. And there's my camera. Like I'm from Siberia again. But I can only imagine, Lambeau is probably the holy grail of football stadiums now, right? I believe they're the oldest stadium. I'm pretty sure. Like it just feels like it would be something that just would be completely epic to watch a game. And then you did it when it was freezing, the snow flurry in the second half. Like it just seemed picturesque for you. And then to get a W traveling that far must have just been just the absolute icing on the cake.
It was the icing on the cake. It would have been a sweet frickin' trip nonetheless. But I tell you, nothing is as sweet as a Niners W. Texas Niner coming in here saying, Rob, when you're in Italy, it's all about the food artwork. Pfft, I agree with that. The food outdid the artwork, hands down. All right, Angel coming in already with the first of our super chats here. Shouldn't we have a couple red zone plays with Trey as quarterback? Pistol type plays. Just 1 to 3 plays, giving the Rams something else to worry about. We're going to get into the Rams content, but let's take just a second to answer this one. You know my stance on this. Randon. I've been calling since, I don't know, mid-season, not to start Trey, but to work him in like this, to bring those plays that can stress the defense. You know, we're going to hit on the fact that this is the third time we're playing the Rams. I think everyone knows that at this point. Should we be working in some trick plays, quote unquote, for the young rookie quarterback, in your opinion?
No, we're the number one team in the NFL in the red zone this season for touchdown percentage, and it's working. So I don't believe so. The only pause, which is what you just said, is that it's the third time, and there's no tomorrow, right? There's no tomorrow. So it's for me, it's like if they ran like a double QB set and like shotgun to Jimmy, and then he hands it off to Trey, or vice versa. They run an end around or do something weird. Like I could see something of that, or just the fact that Trey's a bigger body and a 4th and 1 with him doing a QB sneak. Although when you take him in for that one game, then you probably know where the ball's going. You know, I don't really know what it is there, but now like I fully believe this is Jimmy's opportunity. And, you know, can he be the second quarterback of all time or since 1980 to win a Super Bowl and not make a Pro Bowl ever in his career? It'll be interesting to see how that works out. And so like, I just wonder how that's all going to go. But I mean, Trey's still getting a learning ability or learning situations here by, hey, what is the environment like going into Lambeau?
Right.
Like, what is the environment like doing this? What is this kind of stuff going on? Like when the Niners make the playoffs next season, what do I have to look forward to in these pressure situations? How does Jimmy respond to the interception early on and all this kind of stuff like that? And you know, like I fully believe the learning opportunity always comes from the person who's learning. Like, are they willing to be a sponge and accept all that knowledge regardless of the situation that's coming in? And I think Trey's one of those guys.
Yeah, I fully agree in Trey being able to get something out of this experience. I think you're spot on there. As far as stressing the defense, as far as coming in to specifically give the Rams something to worry about, I'm with you in that the 49ers seem to have the red zone pretty nailed down tight. Where I would throw him in is on those, and it's the same thing I've been saying since midseason, the in between the 40s, where you can actually bring him in under center, bootleg to the wide side of the field, cut the reads in half, allow him to use his arm to throw it all the way down the field, back across the field if he needs to, or his legs. To me, those are the areas that you could stress the defense a little bit more, but I'm resigned to the idea that we're not going to see it because this is Jimmy's show. Next super chat coming in from Jonathan. What's up, faithful? Here in Oahu, 326 feet in a wind turbine, listening to y'all and waiting to snatch some lamb chains and souls. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Jonathan, first and foremost, kudos to you for being able to stand 326 feet off the ground on a wind turbine. I can't say, quite honestly, with a healthy fear of heights, that I would be able to scale that thing and get up there. Randon, you good at 326 feet or what?
I'm good at 13,000, man. I've skydived over 6 times, man. I'm ready to go. So Jonathan, my man, I appreciate that, man. Getting some helping the clean energy out there and ready to snatch some souls. So you're a little bit closer to heaven. So you're probably helping that out with us Niners fans out there.
A little closer to heaven. Oh, that was spectacular. I got to give you mad props for that tie-in right there, Randon. All right, let's jump into our topics now. We're starting this one off simple. Some injury updates, Randon. I'll give you the laydown for today, the layout
Throw it down,
for
brother.
today. And then get your opinion on which one's the most important that we need to track for the rest of the week. So, this is the update that everybody wants to know on Trent Williams. Kyle Shanahan saying, same as he was that game, referring to Week 18 against the Rams. In Trent's mind, there's no way he's not playing. Hopefully, he has better luck this game. I know he believes he's playing, and so do I. Again, Kyle Shanahan speaking today at the presser about Trent Williams. The 49ers injury update for the day, not practicing. Elijah Mitchell, knee. Trent Williams, ankle. Jeff Wilson Jr. was listed as a limited participant, but actually did not practice, and he is there with the knee. Limited was Ambry Thomas with his knee injury, and then full go was Jimmy G. The strange thing about Jimmy was the change in that shoulder came off of the injury report. The thumb remains on it. So apparently the shoulder is doing better. The thumb is still nagging. And then a couple of vet rest days for Bosa and Alex Mack. Which of these are you going to be tracking for the rest of the week, Randon?
Ambry Thomas is still a big one. The Deontay Johnson did a pretty decent job this week. But the Rams are a two-headed monster in the receiving core. I was going to bring this out later, but I'll bring it out now. When targeted in the postseason, their QB rating is 153.2. So, I mean, they are 152.3. So it's near perfect when you target OBJ or Kupp in the playoffs. And so that's something different that we're going to have to look out for. And so, I really want Ambry Thomas out there. And two, when watching the game, Deebo Samuel coming up limping, that pretty much gave me a heart attack. They brought out the stretcher for me in the bar there, and I was like, what? Even if we win this game, there's no way we're winning the next game without Deebo Samuel. But he seems to be good to go, and his demeanor hasn't changed all year. He's, hey, coach, call me whenever you want. I'll figure it out. That's pretty much what he said. And to Kyle, which you got to like as a Niners fan if he's going to have him suit up.
Yeah. When Deebo went down, I too was distraught, to say the least. And what's funny is, of the Packer family sitting to my left, who it was the father was there. He was in his 80s. His daughter was there, and she was sitting next to me, and we were conversing. And Deebo was one of her favorite players as well. She went to South Carolina, and so had the ties there. And when he went down, she was distraught as well. It was just cool to see a fellow fan, a different team, but fan of the NFL, appreciating what Deebo brings to the game and wanting him to continue to contribute, even though being out would have benefited her team significantly. To me, the one I'm tracking is going to be Trent Williams. Agree with you, though, that Ambry Thomas is a huge one when considering the wide receivers that we're coming up against for the Rams. It will be interesting to see if both can go. It was a shock to me that Ambry Thomas wasn't available in the cold. I guess the bone bruise would be more painful in the cold weather. But honestly, that one caught me off guard coming up to kickoff.
Yeah, when you have the bone bruise and in the cold weather, all those injuries, like the joint injuries, the arthritis, that type of stuff, the muscles tend to have a little bit big of a problem. And I thought it was, I'm going to go back to the previous thing that lady, even though she was a Packers fan, like Deebo. And it's an interesting thing that I'm noticing. This is just a little side comment before we move on, is that with a lot of these younger fans, we'll say 20 and younger, are kind of having a little bit of not only their team mentality, but kind of a basketball mentality to fanship where they root for players quite a bit. And I've noticed that a lot of my friends' kids will root for players outside of their so-called team, whether it be social media, whether it be because they liked one play from them in one game and they just got suckered in. And I've noticed that a lot more with the younger fans. And it's just kind of interesting to see how Fandom dissects. I know that there's a friend of mine who plays fantasy football, and he gets the jersey of his warhorse every year of his fantasy football team just to kind of commemorate the season. And that's just something that I've never even thought about. Nor when you see all these fan caves, it's all one team, right? It's all just hey, the Niners fan cave or so-and-so. And fans are starting to grasp on to personalities as well as the teams that they like.
And if you're going to grasp onto a personality, Deebo is a phenomenal one to grasp onto. No question.
Top 5 in the NFL for sure. Yeah.
Jonathan coming in. The game is going to come down to us controlling the line of scrimmage. If we move both sides of the ball, we'll win. The Lambs are soft, and we be Super Bowl bound. Jonathan, I have to agree that the play in the trenches could dictate this one coming up against the Rams. We're going to break down the play in the trenches against the Green Bay Packers in just a little bit, and that will carry forward for the 49ers. I do think that physicality will be a theme in this game, and whichever team is able to physically assert themselves on the other is going to have the edge on Sunday.
I couldn't agree more. And we're going to go into that a little bit more depth. So appreciate the foreshadowing there, Jonathan. Hey,
Yes.
you're typing that again from 300 feet, man. You must be limber as a cat up there.
Seriously, and not concerned about holding on. There would be no way I'd be letting go of whatever it is I'm holding on to up there. Just no way. My work in renewable energy did not put my life on the line. I will freely admit that. Paul Third coming in. Is it strange to anyone else that everyone picked the Niners in Dallas because the Cowboys hadn't really beaten anyone? But the Rams only beat the Cards and the Bucks in the regular season and playoffs are legit. So the question being, Paul here saying that the Rams really haven't beat any contenders themselves, and that was the reasoning most people picked the Cowboys. I would say that the recency bias for me here is real, that the Rams in the playoffs, these last two games, have looked legit. And that's what people are hanging their hat on. They're hanging their hat on Matthew Stafford not throwing the interceptions, as opposed to his 5 final regular season games, which were a mixed bag, to say the least. I think this is recency bias. I think they see Matthew Stafford and the Rams putting up significant points on Tampa Bay and Arizona the week prior. Now we'll see what they can do against this San Francisco 49ers team.
Yeah, it's recency bias, but the Rams are an amoeba. They're constantly changing, right? When we played them earlier in the year, first meeting, just got OBJ, just got the rusher for the Broncos. His name's escaping me right now.
Von Miller. Yes, indeed.
They get Cam Akers back in week 18. He didn't really have a role, even though he hasn't been great, right? Multiple fumbles against the Bucks. He's still a better running back, in my opinion, than what they had there. And they still have a two-headed monster going for the Rams. Stafford has been streaky all year long,
yes.
Right? He's had pockets of games where he's thrown multiple interceptions, and he's had pockets of games where he's just been lights out. And I think that comes with his aggressive nature of who he is as a quarterback. And we'll get to the Stafford situation in a full topic to deep dive. But I really think that's what it comes down to. Stafford's streakiness as a quarterback, the team evolving as the season's getting more down the line. They're getting healthier. They're getting new players to be more weeks in the offense. And it's going to be completely different, right? It's very hard to beat a team 3 times in a row because of all the chess pieces that go there. But we know Kyle's the chess master, and you still got to feel good about this matchup.
Yes, you do. Got to celebrate Caligula coming in as the newest sneakerhead here on the channel. Welcome, Caligula. Appreciate that. Coach B coming in. Type the year you became a Niner fan. That one's easy for me. It is 1986. That is the year in which I moved from Winchester, Massachusetts to Palo Alto, California. And that marked my 49er fandom, going to my first games at Candlestick Park there. It looks like folks are throwing them in the chat. Randon, what about yourself?
I'm right around the 2007 to 2010 mark. Like I said, my mom actually is a Rams fan. She grew up in LA. And so when we watched football growing up together, we were more of a baseball family. So when we did watch football, it was just kind of loosely on. And she didn't have that fandom. So there was really nobody for me to birth that fandom. I kind of had to do it on my own. And the Garcia T.O. days were really the birth of, me being a Niner faithful.
Hey, those were good years back then. Man, we got a lot of folks in the chat throwing their years up on there. Want to make sure to get as many in as I can. J Mart with the 1978 reference. That's a popular year for me. Let's see. Man, people are all over the place with the years in which they came in. I love getting people's fandom up there. Everybody gets a taste. Everybody gets some. Man, that is fantastic. A lot of participation in the chat from people putting up their years. Sorry, can't keep going. Got to get to the next topic, but I just love clicking the button. All right, let's get into our next one here. Finding truth in victories. Let's talk a little bit about the 49ers finding new ways to win each and every week. And clearly this one in Green Bay was the wildest of all because the offense, only puts up 3 points for the vast majority of the game, and it looks like it's going to break the Packers' way, and then all of a sudden the Niners storm back into it. What's your impression been of this 49ers team and their ability to win in these different ways over these past few weeks?
If you would have told me that the Niners offense was held to 0 points all game and we would win this game, I would have laughed you in your face. And it just goes to show that it's been crazy, right? Niners game or Rams game last game, we were down by 17 in the second quarter. That game just completely switched with the Madden double up. You have in the Dallas game pretty much imposed our will the whole first half and then stuck with it. And this game was all special teams. It really was. 2 clutch field goals by Robbie Gould and multiple defensive plays on the special team side with a blocked field goal and blocked punt. It's just fascinating how Jimmy just did enough to win this game. The rush game just made enough plays to win this game. The defense was burnt in the first drive of the game. Really recalibrated on that fumble from Fred Warner and just settled in. And we'll talk a little bit more about DeMeco Ryans later on, in my opinion, because I think he deserves probably the MVP for this game. If it wasn't for Jordan Willis, just the way that team played on defense after the first drive. But man, it was something crazy to go on, and I really enjoyed how this team is just winning. And I think this is a good quote from Sean Payton in his retirement speech. Said he thinks the Niners are that team like the Bucs were a year ago. So just finding ways to win, being clutch in the right moments. And, that comes down to our quarterback, as much as people don't want to admit it, being clutch this season. Comes back to our defense making staunch plays. And in this game, the special teams has been a laughing stock, and we'll get to that in depth, but they really showed out this game to get the dub.
Yeah, I think you've hit something there with the Sean Payton quote, talking about this team feeling unique, this feeling like a season with some destiny to it, feeling like there is a mystique about this Niners squad. I think that you've hit on some of the things that have been true for this team. The idea that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't really get much credit. He gets a lot of criticism when he does things wrong, and he deserves that criticism. But we don't want to offer that respect to him, even when he is deserving. In this game, simply fighting through that weather was something altogether different. I mean, for any of you that don't understand how cold that was, the 5th coldest game in Packers history. I mean, that is wild. It was freezing. When I took off my gloves just to shoot video for like 3 minutes, my hands would pretty instantaneously go numb. And so throwing the ball down the field, did he throw an atrocious interception that he shouldn't have thrown? Yes, he should not have made that throw. And is it fair to assume that the cold influenced his ability to get the ball there a little earlier and a little more on time? Yes, it is. It's something to be recognized as just a gutted out type of performance. And the other thing I'll add to that is, for my teenage self to have gone through the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas, to then go through the Green Bay Packers in Wisconsin, and to head on to play the Rams, who at the tail end of the 90s broke my heart with the greatest show on turf. I'm telling you, this sets up for a revenge tour for the ages for me, and I'm here for it, Randon.
Yeah, it's just been fantastic, and I think there are a lot of players, and we're getting like almost a lot of like storylines, good storylines about individual players, right? The comeback season for Nick Bosa, people doubting Armstead, and he's had more sacks and pressures in like the last 5 weeks than he's had all season. And like Ambry Thomas, you have DeMeco Ryans, you have Shanahan being almost people wanting him out the door and really collaborating right there. You have the special teams who's been garbage all year and comes up clutch in the biggest game that we've had. Robbie Gould, people wanted him out of there, and he's never missed a field goal in the playoffs going so far, and he's just been clutch. And I could go on and on and on. The field goal story of Hufanga, right? When we drafted him, he's just a positive, go-lucky guy and recovers that fumble after the block and gets going. There's just so many phenomenal storylines this season, and I think the messy games and the ways we win highlights the negatives and the positives, right? The contrast, like you say, in art, highlights each spot, right? So you notice both more when we're winning in quote unquote dirty ways.
Yes, I love that. Well said. Jonathan, coming back in here, says, I'm an iron worker, real rigger for about 20 years. Height don't mess with me. I'm on cloud 9 because of how the season went. Against all odds, like Pac said. Yes, I guess we're saying Pac there. I mean, that should have been Pac. Cheers to Jonathan. Love the fact that you have been in the industry for so long and the enthusiasm for the Niners. Can't fault you for that because I am feeling that way too. Jonathan, back in. This team has shown heart and character with the will to win all year. The gut-wrenching losses are helping us now. Don't worry, faithful. We got this. Jonathan picking us all up. And I have to agree. And you were just saying much the same, Randon, that the vicissitudes of this season have shaped this team into who they are and given them the strength to take on these moments. As it gets progressively more challenging in the playoffs, the 49ers have steeled themselves against it through the trials and tribulations that they've already experienced so far this year.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's been fascinating, and I'll be one of the first to admit, like back in when they were below 500 going to the bye, I didn't think this was even a playoff team, let alone a Super Bowl team. And so it's something to be said about them changing the minds of fans, them believing in themselves, and them battling through the negative times to show who they really are as a team.
Amen. Battling through. Will Berth has joined the sneakerhead community as well. Welcome to the channel, Will Berth. Appreciate it. Eddie Marcos coming in. Jimmy is long due to have a good game. We have to score touchdowns to win it all. I'm calling 3 to 4 touchdowns this weekend. Let's be loud this weekend, faithful. Eddie, I will be loud. I promise you, I think I am going to lose my voice in this one. I will be there in LA with my best friend, Mark. Going to be there just hopefully celebrating a Niners win. I love the prediction. I do think Jimmy's due for a clean game. I also believe that that's probably what's going to be required for the Niners to win this one, is a bit more offense.
Yeah, I think it definitely a bit more offense. I think the weather helped. The weather and the defense helped the Niners hold Green Bay to 10 points there, and I think we're going to need a little bit more potency from all parts of the offense to pull this one out.
Amen. Yes, we do. Contributions. That Niner guy coming in. Thank you, Stan, for a $5.5 billion LA home. That Niner guy thanking Stan for building that beautiful home for the Niners. SoFi, Levi's South, I should say. Yeah, it strikes me that 49er faithful are going to take it over again. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but the storylines coming out indicate that's going to be the case again. And that's big. That is real big to have the edge, the emotional edge against the team, the Rams, who probably already feel like the underdogs, even though they're favored in this one.
Yeah, it's a lot of ticket sites are saying 60-40 Rams, or no, 60-40 Niners right now. And so it's going to be interesting. And I got to give a shout out, even though she is not a Niner, but Matt Stafford's wife came out and said that she was going to buy thousands of tickets because they were getting really expensive for Rams fans that can't afford it, maybe families and stuff like this. Not only to get more Rams fans in there, but help give back to the community. So I just want to give her a little shout out to the community work that she's doing for LA there.
Yes. Agreed. I always want to commend people for positive work, even if it is for the opposing team. Patrick saying, did he say vicissitudes?
He did, yes, and proudly.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Every now and then I'll throw something random in there like that just to prove I do have a decent vocabulary. All right, let's transition to that next topic and talk about that special teams unit that you hinted at, much maligned for the vast majority of the season. They were the weak link of this team, and then they stepped up against the Packers, came through in the clutch. Randon, just how special was that for the special teams unit?
Pretty special. And, they took control of their business against a team that was clearly worse. Packers were the worst special teams by a lot of margins in all season. And so Niners could finally beat up on somebody, and they did that. And it was great. And so it was just in big time games or big time parts of the game. right? Like after the Jimmy interception, they go down, big play by Aaron Jones. They're going to score a touchdown or at least a field goal. Big spot right there, right? Jordan Willis slaps down the hands of the offensive lineman. Jimmy Ward comes through and gets the block. And then later on in the game, key play there back in the own zone. Jordan Willis gets the block this time without, roughing the kicker, which is often hard to do when you're going full speed to not rush into that. And that thing that shoots up in the air, right? And everybody's looking up almost like what's a Red Rover game or whatever, or not Red Rover, but what's the game where you just throw something in the air and you have to wait from when you were a child? And then it just happened to bounce right in front of Hufanga, and he picked it up cleanly and ran it in. It kind of amazing. And then goal to striping them from downtown. So it just a testament to coming up big and not doubting yourselves, right? After all season of being stepped on, with that confidence there, it's fascinating.
Yeah, Coach Hightower today talked about the satisfaction, the feeling of that redemption and having borne the brunt of 49er faithful, and rightfully so, for many gaffes throughout this season, and then coming up against an inferior opponent. Now, it is important to call that out, that there were only 5, maybe 6 teams in the NFL worse at special teams than the San Francisco 49ers, and the Packers were one of those teams. They were dead last in least effective special teams unit. So it is important to realize that going in as far as tempering expectations for the special teams unit going forward. But yes, Jimmy Ward with the outstanding effort. And you mentioned it. That's not possible without Jordan Willis and Dante Johnson, their contributions on that play for that initial field goal block. Deebo's return. Kyle Shanahan scheming with Hightower to use Deebo Samuel in the frickin' return game was genius. I mean, that return out to midfield was critical. Jermichael Hasty looking good. Willis, the idea that he looked like there was no way he was going to play this week, that he rolls the ankle against Dallas the week prior, fights to get back this week, and then makes that play, which sets up Huff's scoop and score. That was wild to me. I heard that block. I mean, it was silent enough in the stadium when that went off, and that ball was rock hard. I mean, you can only imagine in that cold just how brutal that must have been. Robbie Gould talked about how he bruised his foot kicking in that game. When you heard the ball hit Willis's hand, it was a solid thump that echoed through the entire Lambeau Field. And then I had the perfect angle. Watched it go up sky high. Like, you just don't see that. It was very impressive to see. And then watched it go down, 3-4 Niners around it, Huff with the scoop and score. Like, there was no danger of a Packer picking it up from my vantage point. That was just special to watch. And again, this was the 5th coldest game for this special teams unit to come out and make those plays in these elements. So spectacular. The second part that Hightower talked about that I think is the most impressive of this unit is their resilience. The idea that they kept pushing, kept fighting. It does speak to the character of the men in the locker room and not wanting the season to end.
Yeah, and Andrew says in the chat, 3 flies up. Yeah, 3 flies up is what I was talking about. It just seemed like it was right there with like forever. But yeah, I mean, it was loud and it was quiet. It wasn't really quiet in the bar. I guess it kind of was. Funny thing about that, I went to Texas Live, which is right next to Jerry World. So not only were Niner fans repping it the week that we played the Cowboys, we retook over their bar next to the stadium for the Packers game, and they got to see us get 2 wins. So a little rub it in extra. But it was just everybody was holding their breath. Like, it was a collective gasp for the punt. And then when we saw the block, people were like, where is it at? Where is that? And like, nobody was cheering until we saw it hit the ground, and then we go. It was an interesting feeling.
Yes, that was wild. That the stadium exploded with Niners fans afterwards, and the collective gasp by the Packers fans there was just remarkable. The energy in the stadium absolutely left, and it erupted with red in that moment. Eddie Marcos coming in. I'll be there also, talking about LA. By the way, great show. Keep it up. Appreciate that, Eddie. Looking for, hey, anybody who's going to be out there, this is something I got a special request before the episode to ask where there will be invasion events going on in LA. So if you know of any pregame events that are going on Sunday or Saturday night. I know that there are two. The 49ers are hosting one that is going on during the day on Saturday, I think from 11 to 3 p.m. at a facility that you can check out, the San Francisco 49ers website, and it will tell you where that is. It's at some bar in L.A., and there's another one at Baja Sharkies later in the evening that I'm aware of. But please put any of those events that you know of for your fellow 49er faithful so that they have that information. Anybody attending the games can go to those. Very important to get our pregame on so that we are loud in that stadium. All right, let's get to our next topic. Still talking about that beautiful, beautiful win against Green Bay. The battle in the trenches of the frozen tundra. Certainly positives and negatives if you're talking about both offense and defense for the 49ers when talking about those trenches. What did you see as the keys in this one, Randon?
Yeah, before we get to the praise, let's start off with a little negative. We'll go a little salty before we go sweet here.
Let's do it.
And the negatives, Tom Compton's been pretty good for the second half of the season, but he was getting massacred on that side of the line. Gray had multiple sacks, tons of pressures, the same move over and over and over again. And it's just absolutely crazy the fact that how much pressure they got. Four sacks for Green Bay. The run game couldn't really get going until the second half. Their defensive line was pretty much pushing back a lot for the entire game. And so with the Rams defensive line getting better, it's something that we really need to keep an eye on coming to this upcoming game, for our run game to be effective. It's not going to be a good chance that we win another game without scoring 0 points on the offense. And so both sides really need to step up and take a deep breath. How much of that was the Packers? How much of that was the weather? How much of all that? Probably a little bit of everything there. But I really thought that the offensive line played suspect for a greater portion of this game than they really have in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed as if Rashawn Gary was a one-man wrecking crew for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, someone who didn't have significant production throughout the year, right, as compared to what he was able to do against the right side of the 49ers line. Came in with 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. He was just a wrecking ball on that right side. And again, I do think the 49ers, when you're looking at obvious passing downs, that is a very, very big weakness for the 49ers. The right side of their offensive line in third and long situations sets up to be a problem. And that is the key, is staying out of those third and longs. The 49ers struggled to get the run game going early on against the Packers. Certainly the elements played into that. I believe against the Rams, the way in which they have to slow down that pass rush is early down success. The Niners have to get the run game going, but also importantly, they have to be able to attack that middle level of the Rams defense where they're most suspect. Phenomenal defensive line, great secondary, suspect linebackers. So if the 49ers can take advantage of that middle ground, then they'll keep that initial pass rush at bay a bit by getting the ball out quickly. Again, though, if they find themselves in the third and long, that's where I'll be worried. When you flip it to the other side, when you look at this 49ers defensive line continuing to get pressure as they have now for weeks, just how special was that performance in dragging down Aaron Rodgers 5 frickin' times in this one?
Oh man, the battle of the Titans on the Niners defensive line, it was like Godzilla and King Kong between Eric Armstead and Bosa. They're just going back and forth on who had more dominance all game, and it was nuts. And I really enjoyed it. Both of the guys stepping up, right? The second overall pick, the highest paid defensive lineman, all of them are just really stepping up when it really needs to be. And then, as we've been hinting at down the stretch, a lot of other people have been stepping up too, Ebucom and Key and obviously Willis, not on the defensive line, but on the defensive, the line for special teams, making some key plays there. And so it was just really a factor. And I think you owe a lot of that to just beating their matchups along with D'Amico Ryans. I thought did a fantastic job outside the first, scheming the secondary to allow them to get to Rodgers, right? So we talked about it in week 3. Rodgers was doing a really good job at finding one-on-one matchups and exploiting them. The coverage was not really going to that side, and D'Amico Ryans did a good job. So they played primarily cover 3, cover 6. And they were rotating a lot right before the snap. And we talked about it going into this week that I thought the biggest thing that the Packers can take control of is when Davante Adams is one-on-one. Well, now they were rotating the safeties pre-snap towards the Davante Adams side. You saw a lot on third down when they were playing man. They were bracketing Davante Adams as well. And so they were doing a lot of different things there. They were doing some sim blitzes. Like we saw Bosa in coverage for one play, which made no sense. But they were mixing up a lot of the looks. And even though they were still only rushing 4 at max 5 players at most of the game, they were getting a lot of pressure. Like I said, 5 sacks there. They're doing a lot of great things now with Ryan's changing up different atmospheres, knowing where they want to go with the football. And he's doing a lot better job as the season's gone on, as we saw with Saleh in his tenure, disguising coverages, knowing where they want to go with the ball, and having timely things. And so we saw it on a third down, right? Third down is typically Davante Adams' time in the third quarter that led to the punt. And right before the snap, shade over, they bracket Adams. That forces Rodgers to hold the football. He didn't see Lazard on the dig route wide open. That could have been a 40-yard pass. He was wide open, but because he likes to force that play a lot, because he tries to beat the matchups or take advantage of the matchups, it forced him to hold on to the ball and clutch the ball. And I thought a lot of the scheme helped with the pass rush, where in week 3, he was getting the ball out in like 2.5 seconds. You're muted there, Rob.
Get excited over here. You know why I had to mute myself? It's interesting. I'll just throw this out there because it's a little bit weird and disconcerting to hear. The number of jets taking off from Portland because of, I'm guessing, what's happening in Russia is pretty disconcerting. Like you can hear when it's a military jet, it is deafening when it takes off from the airport around here, which is miles away. But that is why I'm competing with a little bit of background noise, just some afterburners from Top Gun coming in the background. But yes, there are a couple of things that I find to be remarkable about this. Number one, that the 49ers are able to generate pressure as frequently as they are rushing 4 D linemen with sparing use of blitzes. And D'Amico, to your point of his growth as a defensive coordinator, has timed those blitzes so well. And that's going to be critical coming up against the Rams. But this one, with the rotating coverages on Davante, it was striking to me that the Packers and Aaron Rodgers continued to force the ball in there, not spread it around. Of the 20 completions, 18 of those, 9 for Aaron Jones, 9 for Davante Adams. Only got 1 completion to Allen Lazard and 1 to Mercedes Lewis. So, I mean, it was just Rodgers attempting to get it to the people that he trusted, the 49ers anticipating that and being able to pretty effectively limit them, obviously with an assist from the elements as well. But getting home with 4 to me is the magic recipe, and that's going to be key against the Rams as well. Truth told, not sold coming in. This has to be our year. Very magical. All we have been through from Super Bowl 54 loss, injuries, COVID, not in our own stadium. Could truly be start of a dynasty. I had to get that one out. That was a mouthful for me in that moment. Just couldn't get that last sentence out. But it could be the start of something special. I am recognizing this as something special regardless. This season to me is one that to this point I've just treasured and really appreciated and will continue to do so on Sunday, regardless, that I think this is a special team, a special season, and it's got to be recognized for that. Cheers to the 2021 Niners.
Yeah, I think you and I are both similar in the fact that we recognize the difficulties of this team and the people that are playing on it, but we also have the appreciation to realize that NFC championships don't come very often. Super Bowls don't come very often, and so just to accept it and really understand that we're witnessing something that is special. You watch the football season 18 weeks. We talk about the season all year round. The prep for this season, especially after drafting Trey Lance, was nauseating. The amount of debate that was going to go into that pick, let alone after the pick was made, and all year long about how good Jimmy or how bad Jimmy or should they this or should they that or Shanahan sucks and all this kind of stuff. the fact that we're here, like, I'm just appreciating it. I've accepted the fact that this team was better than I thought coming into the year, and as the year went along. And I really think that this is a testament to the coaching as a whole. The amount, how good DeMeco Ryans has been. The defense is playing way better than the sum of its parts. To have a top defense all year with the secondary that they had, the amount of injuries to key linebackers, Bosa coming off an injury, moving Armstead inside, getting guys that were off on bad teams, like Key off the Raiders. He had, a couple sacks his whole career, taking a chance on him and him performing by the end of the season. Ebucom transferring him from outside linebacker to a rusher. A lot of those things for Chris Kasurik and DeMeco Ryans, and the vaulting of key players like Deebo and Elijah Mitchell have really carried this season into a stratosphere that I didn't think was possible.
Man, as you list off all those things, it just makes me smile. It just makes me say how special this goddamn season really has been to this point and will continue to be. Jonathan, again, coming in. I wonder why people are putting the narrative out there that the locker room doesn't like Trey. It's insane. The team will be fine if Trey has to play. I agree with this wholeheartedly. I don't know where that narrative may come from, but everything that I have heard, all of the body language I have observed, points to the fact that the Niners pulled off a miracle. They pulled off what many doubted was possible, the ability to pay a franchise quarterback $25 million to continue being on this team and bring in a new franchise quarterback, trade 3 first-rounders in order to select him, and then allow him to ride the bench for a year and not have a cancer grow within the locker room, not have a split occur. To then start the season 3-5 and still not allow the freaking locker room to fracture, it's unbelievable. So yes, I agree. Whenever that transition occurs, which my prediction would be week 1 of next year after Jimmy Garoppolo has been traded, I think the team will be 1,000% behind it, just as if they are 1,000% behind Jimmy Garoppolo right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that athletes are just as humans as we are. And as the season's gotten along, I've gotten more sick and more sick of the Jimmy G versus Trey Lance debate, just because it's never ending. And and I think you saw it in camp, like with Kittle and a couple other guys. Like, okay, we get it. Like, you want to know everything you want to know about Trey Lance. He's the 3rd overall pick, but we're trying to win games. Like, we're trying to, like, they've said that Jimmy's our starting quarterback. We've rode to the promised land, in the Super Bowl with Jimmy. We fought through a lot of adversity with him. We like him as our quarterback. He's a captain on the team for a reason. It doesn't mean we don't like this other kid. Right. Liking somebody doesn't mean hate for somebody else. Like,
that's
it's not
right.
It's not a universal equation. You can have like for both. And I think that athletes overall want to win, right? So you saw it when Trey Lance was in there. Trent Williams came out, hey, we believe in this guy. We believe we can get W's. Deebo's, and Fred Warner were all saying the same thing, that he's been looking fantastic in practice, and we believe in this kid. If he has to come on the field, that he'll be ready to play. And I think overall the fandom has almost put their own trepidation onto what they believe the locker room is like when athletes just want to win.
Yes.
Unless there's personal harm to somebody within a locker room, like you're calling somebody out, and not calling somebody out, but you are like have an actual beef with somebody. It's really just about winning. And people have said this with other players, most notably Nick Bosa, like, what is he going to be like in the locker room? And they're behind him all the time. You saw that after the game against the Packers, they're jumping up and down in the locker room. Let's go, baby. Let's go, Niners, all this kind of stuff. Athletes want to win. This is what they've prepared their whole life for. And they're going to be behind whoever's getting the ball behind center.
Amen to that. And there are also some intangibles that we're going to talk about in just a second after we go through a couple of these super chats. Joe Stahl coming in. Keep the pressure on Stafford and he will fold.
Like a lawn chair.
Yeah, I believe that is true. The key here, and I'll throw some stats to back this up that I got that are just great, is bringing pressure with 4. Stafford has made teams pay when they have blitzed him. He is pretty electric against the blitz. The reason the 49ers have such an edge is the ability to bring that pressure rate without blitzing. That's what's so special about this front 4.
How dare you take my stats for the later on in the chat? We're gonna call this one short, guys. Appreciate you.
Indeed, sir.
I like it. You're 100% correct, and I think that it's not necessarily it's pressure, and we're gonna get to that later on. But I would say, he leads the league in interceptions, or tied for the league in interceptions. He's also leading the league in pick sixes. He likes to be aggressive, and so when you get pressure and you don't have to blitz, it benefits the Niners.
Yes, it does. Let's get some of those turnovers, Niners. CT Law. I am thinking keep it simple. Deebo, of course, but seems when Kittle gets more looks, less drama. Looking at the replay, O-line just not doing the job. CT Law, I do think it's imperative to realize the conditions, the footing for the linemen, that it's easier to be the player in pursuit when conditions are nasty like they were. I think for the defensive lineman, it's easier to get after the quarterback than it is to try and maintain your footing and pass block. But in particular, the Niners struggled because they found themselves in a lot more of those 3rd and long situations. I do think that will be the key in containing this Rams pass rush and obviously getting the ball out quickly when we are in those passing situations.
Yeah, I think it comes down to games as well, right? Like you said, nasty weather, all this kind of stuff, and athletes can't play at their A game every single week. It's just not feasibly possible. We talk about every athlete. We've talked about on this podcast. Every athlete has their A game through F game and how that shakes out. But down the stretch, right? Number 1 rushing grade from PFF, top 5 passing grade from PFF, even with backups in there. So overall, the Niners have done a good job on the offensive line. You see them rotating multiple backs, having different schemes, running about 65% outside zone, inside zone, 35% power concepts. So they're able to cultivate multiple styles of run games. Jimmy G's been doing a decent job at pushing the ball downfield lately within the confines of the offense. And so overall, I think they're doing a good job. And he just got beat. I mean, these are athletes that get paid a lot of money to beat, the person across from them. And sometimes it just happens.
Amen to that. I'm bringing this next one in and putting it up for just a little bit to talk about it. Jaguile 56. I really appreciate the transparency, the vulnerability, and taking the time to share this. Jaguile says, "Hey, gentlemen, my family has gone through very tough personal loss. And I've gotten through this dark time by getting joy from your show. Thanks." I just honestly, from the bottom of my heart, want to say thank you for sharing that. I think it's important for folks to realize that there are others out there going through some stuff, that if you're going through something, you're not alone. People often assume, I don't know, maybe because of the way in which I speak or the fact that I'm pretty positive when I talk about the 49ers, that I may not have gone through things or may not have experienced. And what I want to share is just a little bit of vulnerability in saying that I've actually had some really unique challenges in my life over my 43 years on this planet. I've experienced some incredible highs, no doubt, but some really, really painful lows. And my takeaway from those is the strength I drew from failure, the strength that I drew from those moments where life punched you in the mouth and you didn't know if you were going to make it, and you reached out to people around you for support. There are people who are there for you. There are people who lend an ear. There are people who lend support. And I just want to say that for anyone out there feeling any sort of way that isn't good right now, that it's okay, that those feelings are temporary, that anything you're going through will pass, that there are brighter things out there for you to focus on, that there is positivity around the corner, and that there are people willing to listen. And I'm one of those people. I respond to every comment I possibly can on my videos. And if there's anyone who's listening to this that's struggling, you can reach out to me directly at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. I mean that wholeheartedly, that if there's something you just need to talk about, whether it's 49ers related or not, I'm here for you, because I think we all have this unique innate ability to influence others. Every person you come into contact with in your everyday life, you have an opportunity to be kind to that person. And you never know what a little bit of kindness is going to do for somebody who's going through something like Jaguayo just shared, something dark for his family in getting through it. You never know what somebody is up against in their life. And a little bit of kindness, a little ray of sunshine can be just what people needed. So I want to challenge people out there to do that. And I want to offer myself as someone who's willing to listen as well.
Yeah, very well said. And I just a little small thing on top of that, just displaying gratitude to people more often, and really, and not to get too into it here, but I want to give you gratitude, Rob, because you came on my podcast first when I was with the Genuine Draft there, and we had a really good time. And then having the confidence in me to come on here and form Between Two Beards and have this every Wednesday and really form a friendship through Ninerdom. Has been an awesome uplifter to my personal spirits and making me enjoy talking to you every Wednesday on here in front of all your fans here at the Left Shoe. So, I want to really appreciate that and how much it means to me.
I appreciate that. I do. Elvis has entered the chat. Elvis is in the building. Elvis is the newest sneakerhead on the channel, celebrating something positive here. Welcome, Elvis. Love to have you. And Marcos Rios joins right behind him. We have two new sneakerheads joining the channel, and the support is most definitely appreciated. Sheep NL coming in with the comment, check some facts since week 16 versus the Titans, Week 18 Rams, playoff Cowboys, and Packers, 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's 8-year veteran Jimmy G with highest pay in 49ers. This is a good comment that brings up our next freaking topic, which we will get into after we cover a couple more comments that we need to get to. But this is a placeholder for it. That yes, Jimmy Garoppolo's stats have not been great, and sometimes they've been pretty bad. You definitely want to criticize him for his shortcomings. I think that it is definitely something that warrants criticism, but I think there are some intangibles for Jimmy Garoppolo as well. I'm not quite sure about the stats as they're laid out there, because Jimmy
he had a touchdown in week 18.
Yeah, he has thrown some touchdowns, so I knew that 0 touchdowns to be inaccurate. But yes, I think what we're looking at least the last 3 weeks, is not the greatest version of Jimmy, but we will hit on that in just a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Joe Stoll here. Rough game for the offensive line. Cold, snow, and Green Bay defensive front is pretty damn solid. Rams run defense is not so solid. Run the ball. Joe, if we can get the ball going, if we can run the ball, get into those third and manageables, to me, that's the critical component. To stay out of third and long. Don't allow that Rams ferocious defensive front to get after Jimmy, to pin their ears back. If we stay out of those third and longs, I feel good about it, and running the ball is the key.
The Packers were actually one of the worst run defenses in the NFL on EPA per play. And so, yeah, they had a rough time and rough in that game. And I think it lends itself, the Rams run defense is their scheme, and their defensive scheme lends itself to the outside zone and for us to beat them more than the physical players themselves. Obviously, they have one of the best defensive players to ever play the game in Aaron Donald. But it's something to be said that I think the scheme is what allows us to be more successful rather than the actual players on the field.
Very fair. Marcos Rios, one of our newest sneakerheads coming in, want to say huge shout out from Los Angeles and huge Niner fans out here. By the way, fan since 1981. Welcome, Marcos. We need all those LA faithful to get tickets to the game and make that stadium red.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's make it Levi's South. All right, we finally get to transition into that topic I teased just a moment ago. Belief versus production. The question being, does Jimmy have an underrated leadership ability that balances out that lack of production? Do the intangibles even out the tangibles? Randon, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very interesting to see what leadership ability has. when you've actually battled with somebody, earning trust in different aspects of the field. Big recency bias, like how does he play in the fourth quarter, and all those things kind of factor into belief and what goes in on how players perceive guys. And coming in from almost a complete, really crappy season where we got the second overall pick to making it to the Super Bowl and having that majestic season, and then the team believing that if in 2020 if Jimmy didn't get injured, that they would be right back in the hunt. And this year, with all him having to deal with the Trey Lance talk all season, him having to, he's not really on Twitter, but him dealing with the palpable fan dislike for him and wanting his head. Shanahan on the sideline yelling at him like, this isn't that hard and all this kind of stuff. But sometimes he just finds a way to win. And I'm a firm believer that winning is not a QB stat. It's
right.
Obviously by this weekend, it definitely wasn't. It was a special team stat this weekend. And so I am 100% behind that winning and losing is a stat, but the team, is Jimmy good enough to win with this team, right? Top five run team in almost every metric, top 5 defense in almost every metric, top 5 offensive line in almost every metric. And so you're looking at, they have all the rest of the team is there. Does Jimmy just have to be good enough? And do the intangibles mean more than the tangibles do at that point for a team trying to make these things? I believe when he hasn't thrown a touchdown, I had this written down and I can't find it, but I believe he's 9-2 when he doesn't throw a touchdown.
Yes, so, I think that's at least very close to the stat. It is remarkable because you have to think those are the games where the Niners get the run game going, right? That's where we lean on that ferocious run game.
And, when you have that locker room cohesiveness, in 2019-20, multiple players who have got brought in on trade, including Trent Williams, has said this is one of the best locker rooms they've ever been a part of in the history of them playing the game. And so that comes with cohesiveness with not only your captains, but everybody else that comes in. And then, a lot of people, because of all his deficiencies, being his interceptions, him making quote unquote rookie mistakes, as people say it. I think the fact that he got paid that amount, even though I don't blame him for that, go ahead and get as much money as you possibly can. I don't blame his agent at all for that. Go get your bag, buddy. And that's not his fault. And so, but you look at it, right? He in 2019 led the league in fourth quarter comebacks with 4 more than anybody else. And he's tied with the likes of Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow with 3 fourth quarter comeback and game-winning drives on the last drive of the game with 3 on the season. So there's very much moments of clutchness for Jimmy Garoppolo in key moments. And so 3 game-winning drives without Jimmy Garoppolo helping the team being excellent on those drives, we don't make the playoffs. So it's a team game. Without the defense, we don't make the playoffs. Without the run game, we don't make the playoffs. Nobody can do it themselves. That's why there's 50 plus people on this roster. And, people want to hate him because they want an elite quarterback. And when they drafted Trey Lance, that's what they believe they got. So they're like, oh, why do I want to play with a mediocre quarterback who has flashes when I believe Trey Lance is elite? And then you have the other side saying, hey, man, this guy wins games. He's clutch when it matters. And for the most part, yeah, he does some dumb things. But overall, he works within the offense. And you think that you see the difference between how Aaron Rodgers plays and how Jimmy plays. Well, Kyle Shanahan wants him within his offense. I'm designing these plays to be open, just throw to the guy. Where Aaron Rodgers has more freedom to make adjustments at the line of scrimmage, whether that's by coach design or it's because he's vastly superior in talent. We don't know the behind-the-scenes story in that. But to tie this all in, I think that it does matter in intangibles. And playing sports my whole life, some people just have that leadership ability to have that aura around them that they're going to win. I'm sure he earned a lot of points by practicing with a torn joint in his thumb, getting buried in the dirt and not telling everybody that his shoulder hurt and just getting back on the field, not making excuses for himself under injuries. And so for me, it's like I understand what he is. I've come to an acceptance. Like when I see an interception, I'm like, well, that's Jimmy G. When I see a nice little dart throw, like the 2 throws on the last drive of the game for us to win, both over 15 yards, both tough throws, making it work and getting the team in position to win the game. And so I take both as they come. Like you have to take both as they come. And that's why he is who he is.
That's the key of it. People at times, when they hear me say positive things about Jimmy Garoppolo, believe that I am this Jimmy Stan or whatever terms people use for describing people who are Jimmy Garoppolo apologists in their opinion. And that's not what I am. I couldn't be further from it. I'm all about criticizing when I see things that are mistakes. When I see those interceptions that come from Jimmy Garoppolo, I am among the first to call it out. I just feel that you also have to call out the other side of it. And the intangible thing is something that comes up over and over and over again for Jimmy Garoppolo because all of his teammates talk about it. Kyle Shanahan talks about it. You just have to ask yourself, is it real or are they just blowing smoke because they want to support him? Well, if you understand fundamentals of leadership, and I've spent a good portion of my career trying to understand the fundamentals that go into good leadership and attempting to convey what good leadership looks like to folks at high-end positions at Fortune 500 companies, right? Folks that want to be good leaders, learning in that respect. And what I can tell you is there are certain personality types. There are certain ways in which a leader carries themselves that can raise those around them, that can cause others to be better versions of themselves. And when I hear the way in which teammates describe Jimmy Garoppolo, they describe his sense of calm, they describe his presence in the huddle, all of these things that I hear speak to me of someone who is a great leader, who if I'm on that offense, I can look to Jimmy Garoppolo and I can draw something from that. And that will encourage me to be a better version of myself going forward. So yes, I think he deserves criticism for those things that we all know too well.
Yes, he has to play a lot better than how he's been playing.
Exactly. But you also have to give him credit for those things that he brings to the table. And to me, leadership is absolutely one of them. All right, we got a lot of super chats to catch up on here. Chris Royal coming in. The beautiful thing about sports is the community that it provides people. Despite all our differences, we have the opportunity to unite as one. Yes, and Chris, as soon as we've moved on to Trey Lance, the 49er fan base will come back together. The one split that we have is the quarterback position. Other than that, Niner faithful are a very united bunch. But yes, I think that is the special thing about sports. It brings us together. It gives us something to be passionate about. It allows us to argue about something that the arguments don't carry as much weight and we can get a little bit off of our chest in that regard. But it does introduce us to people. And Randon and I and the friendship that has formed from this Between Two Beards episode is evidence of that to me personally as well.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. And you like, whether it be sports or whether it be music or whatever you want, like whatever you're into, when you're in that moment, like when the Niners won and I was at Texas Live with 100 other Niners fans, 97% of them I've never met, and everybody's just hugging and jumping up and down and buying shots for everybody. It really does bring people together for the most part. And it's an escape from, people who are having bad times or who have a lot of stress during the week or have, 3 kids they got to pay for or this or that, whatever your situation is. And sometimes Sunday is your only relief in watching the red and gold win, get some W's and go to the NFC Championship. Brings a little brightness to people's days. Yes,
it does. I was celebrating with a lot of 49er faithful after that game in Lambeau in the cold and couldn't feel that cold anymore. CT Law, Rob, your show is a great stress reliever. You give and show respect. Salute to you, my friend. Your buddy Grant is the prophet of doom. LOL. CT Law, thank you for the compliment. Cheers to you. Appreciate that. I think Grant just has a different vibe. He's going for the, starting a conversation, and he does that pretty effectively. He gets a lot of dialogues going, no doubt about it. Chris Royal coming in. Thanks for the awesome content. As always, Chris, one of our sneakerheads here on the channel. Appreciate you, Chris. Thank you
for your fandom. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. William Bennett coming in. We need to score early, get at least 14 points up early, control the clock, wear the Rams defense out, and try to minimize any damage Jimmy might do. William, I think this is a fairly succinct game plan. I do think the Niners getting a lead early benefits them, allows them to continue running the ball. Don't want to get behind and force it into Jimmy G's hands. Much rather would have a constant, consistent offensive attack. tire out that Rams defense and keep our defense on the sidelines rested so they can get after Matthew Stafford while they're out there.
Yeah, I think William maybe it brought something to mind here, and I think it's going to be apparent with how many Niners fans are going to be there. Big play early, whether we get the ball in the first half or we're on defense, right? Getting a three and out right away, getting that fan momentum going, or how we did against the Cowboys and carved them down the field the whole time, only 1 second down. If we have an electric first drive or first stop on defense, or there's a big turnover in the first quarter, it could turn the tides with 60%, quote unquote, 60% Niners fans in there, based on the statistics. We all know it's going to be loud. And so big play early, whether it be 14 points or defensive acumen or a special teams, now that they're hot, run back for a touchdown. Big play early is going to be a big difference maker in the momentum of this game.
That would be huge. Liam Mooney coming in as the newest sneakerhead on the channel. Welcome, Liam. Jonathan, to faithful that are arguing style points, would you be happy if Jimmy threw 300 plus touchdowns and lost as opposed to 175, a pick, a touchdown, and a win? Will you be mad? That's a great point, Jonathan.
Do you think Bills fans are happier than the Niners fans right now?
Right.
No,
Josh Allen lit the world on fire, lit the freaking world on fire, and is going to be watching from his couch. It matters a hell of a lot more that the Niners got that W than anything else. I don't care that it was a defensive slugfest. As a matter of fact, I love the fact that it was this ugly, weird game that ended up 13-10, because that's a story I will get to tell for years to come. And it is a team game. It's not as if the Niners didn't do anything to win that game. The Niners and all their role players did a shitload to win that game. Jordan Willis coming through in the clutch, Hufanga with that touchdown. I mean, it was just a myriad of players that don't normally make the contributions were key, critical in this one. And that fires me up. I love it, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's fair. Criticism is fair, but just enjoy the win. Like, it's the playoffs. Like, we are one game away from 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, one win away. And like, it just doesn't happen very often. And like, there's not a lot of fan bases who get what was the it was in the divisional round. I think there was something the Bengals tweeted out saying, this is our first win in the playoffs since cell phones were invented. Like, this is the first text you could text your friend. Like, how long has that been? Right. Like we are blessed that this team is playing this well, and just enjoy it. Right. Like, It's fair to criticize players and play, because that's what fans should do. That's healthy dialogue. But ultimately, you just got to celebrate the win and move forward. Like, it is what it is. Like, we won the way that we won, but a W is better than a loss.
Amen to that. Liam Mooney back in because he stepped up the Sneakerhead membership. Love to see
Upgrades.
that. CT Law coming in as the most recent Sneakerhead right after that. All right, we got Lawless Light coming in. Jimmy G, no matter what happens, is the conclusion to this illusion. That's a nice word salad there. I like it. The conclusion to this illusion. I think what I'm interpreting from that is that we ride until the end with Jimmy G. Like, that's just where we're at. So get on board, root for Jimmy Garoppolo, because I think all of us Niner faithful, want to win another Super Bowl. And so if you want that, Kyle Shanahan has pretty definitively stated it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo from here on out. You need to jump on the Jimmy Garoppolo bandwagon and start rooting for the man.
Yeah, this is the last bus out of NorCal. We're going to LA to win some games, and you better get on it if that's what we're doing. And then in the offseason, then you can debate whatever quarterbacks you want to debate. But as of right now, let's get some freaking wins.
Get on the bus. Kevin Spencer, don't you think Jimmy has to do more against Kansas City? I love the fact that Kevin has skipped LA and gone on to Kansas City.
Ballsy move there.
Yes, I think Jimmy will need to do more in both of the remaining games. I believe Jimmy will need to have a clean game and put up multiple touchdowns against LA, and I do believe he will need to do the same in whatever Super Bowl matchup the Niners would then end up in after beating LA. So I would agree with Kevin here that we do need improved play from Jimmy.
He does need to play better. We're happening to win games. It is what it is, and I'm grateful for the games that we're winning. But he does have to play better, and I think he will have to play better to win these next two. Would I be happy if Jimmy just came out and threw for 404 and just had his career game when it matters most in the NFC Championship? Yes, I would. Do I
Yes.
expect it? Probably not. But I think he definitely has to be better than no touchdowns and multiple interceptions, like he has been. But again, he made clutch throws when it counted in game-winning drives to set up the field goal for Robbie Gould. He made the throws when it counted. And don't forget, this team wants to run the football. Like that's what they want to do.
That's the identity.
For hell or high water, like they want to run the football, and Shanahan wants a quarterback that will play within his offense, not can play. Jimmy's like, yeah, he draws up the play, I throw the ball where it's supposed to go, and that's where it's at.
That's a fact. William Bennett coming in. Look, faithful, this the team right now. Just get behind the team. Let's go 49ers. Simple. And that's it. We need to just come together. William echoing our sentiment that, yes, get on the freaking bus. It's headed to LA right now, and it's staying there for 3 weeks. So let's ride.
Let's do it. Come together right now, as the Beatles
Come
would say.
together right now over the Niners. Mm-hmm. All right, Jared McBride. I want a 49ers Chiefs rematch in the Super Bowl. I want the 49ers to get revenge. Jared, I think that would be music to pretty much all of the faithful's ears. I would love to see that. I'd also be fine with a rematch between the 49ers and the Bengals and just continue that Super Bowl dominance. Either one, whatever situation puts the Niners in the Super Bowl, I'm good.
I'm fine with it. I just have every once in a while I have continuous nightmares of Mahomes. So I don't ever doubt him and his ability. And I know it's Burrow time or Joe Cool or whatever you want to call him.
Right.
You don't call him Joe Cool because that was Joe Montana's.
No, you definitely don't take that nickname. That one's reserved.
So sorry, faithful. Sorry, don't massacre me. Don't call for me to get kicked off the show. But he's been playing lights out. That whole Bengals team has been playing. Jamar Chase is taking the world by storm. But Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, even though I thought Kelce was slowing down a little bit this year, clearly in the playoffs he has not.
Yeah, 13 seconds. Goodness gracious, that's ridiculous. Lawless Light, we just need Jimmy to take care of the ball, and our D-line will handle the rest. The Rams are a comfortable game for Jimmy. Familiarity wins this game. I do believe Jimmy Garoppolo will feel confident going into this one, and I also believe that will bode well for his ability to protect the ball. Would you agree, Randon?
Yeah, I think the confidence that he has yet to lose to the Rams, the confidence in Shanahan dialing up the play call, the familiarity with the teams, and all those kind of things. And not only, as we said, the Rams have gotten a lot of things, the Niners have really evolved too, with Jennings as a third wide receiver, Deebo and how he's been used in the offense. Ayuk, I think, is averaging at least 60-something yards in the regular season, the last 6 games. And so it's been really apparent that this team is clicking on all cylinders. And as we said earlier, DeMeco Ryans is coming to his own as a defensive coordinator, really getting into targeting when to blitz, when not to blitz, getting 4 home, disguising coverages, using cover 2, cover 3, cover 6, all these different things to benefit the talent. And I believe the defense is playing better than the sum of its parts. And that goes to good coaching.
Yes, it does. Phenomenal coaching, especially on that defensive side of the ball. Sean 951 Niners, one of our sneakerheads coming in. Kyle left the MVP he made in Matt Ryan, #1 offense, and he knows the potential of his offense. He wants a quarterback that makes the D coordinator crazy like Carolina 2019 more consistently, and we would be #1 seed each year. So I think that's calling for a bit more of the Patrick Mahomes, Trey Lance, someone who brings something more to the table than Jimmy Garoppolo. And I agree. I think that is why you see the 49ers investing everything they did in Trey Lance. You get a lot from Jimmy Garoppolo. You get some good things. You get some bad things. But clearly the 49ers wanted to move on. No question about it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because it'll be his 6th year, and you evolve as a head coach. Like you should at least learn from your mistakes of previous years. He'll evolve as a play caller. The evolution of Deebo, will he be used the same way next year, or will somebody else get that nod? And the apparent extension coming forward, will the Niners be more hesitant to run these plays if there's a larger salary attached to Deebo? It'd all be pretty crazy how it works out next year. I fully expect no matter what happens this season that Trey Lance will be the quarterback. That is my guess. But yeah, I mean, who doesn't want an elite quarterback. I believe this is the first championship series that doesn't have Brady, Manning, or Rodgers in it in like the last 15 years. And so elite quarterbacks make up for deficiencies on those teams. And other than Brady, though, those elite quarterbacks cost a lot of money. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be as good as a team when Mahomes is making 50 mil. You see how deep the Niners roster is compared to the Packers because Rodgers is making 40 plus mil. Where Brady, his wife is worth 400 million and he can afford to take those pay cuts because he wants to win. Not all quarterbacks are like that. They want to get their bag. They want to make their money. Dak Prescott held out for those reasons. And so that's why you've seen a lot of teams win on rookie contracts versus after those contracts settle in.
Yeah, and the other reality is, as people watch that game between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, you saw a bunch of people mentioning on Twitter, the Niners just need to get one of those quarterbacks. Yes, there are like 5 of those human beings in the freaking world, in the entire world. So it may seem easy because we just had a matchup where 2 of these greats went toe-to-toe with one another. But the reality of getting one is luck of the draw, and you just got to hope we found one in Trey Lance. CT Law, sorry, but this is a business. Kyle, Lynch, York all want Jimmy. If they thought Trey was better, he would be in. Too much at stake, 100 million or more. CT Law, I agree with this, that to me, there's no doubt Kyle Shanahan specifically wants nothing more than winning. He is a hyper-competitive individual, and if he believed Trey Lance gave him the better chance, he would absolutely go that route. I think he's been crystal clear on believing Jimmy's the starter, and that's the case going through the remainder of this season.
I a little bit disagree with that. Just the fact that I think you looked at the game when he came in, what Trey Lance did against Arizona. Even though they lost those games, he was effective, and Shanahan hinted that he might start the next week, even though Jimmy might be available. You saw it in the Bears game in the first half, him yelling at Jimmy, like, this isn't that hard. Like, do I need to make an adjustment here? Like, and, Jimmy got his act together and played one of his best second halves I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah.
And then I think the snowball got rolling and we started winning, 4 or 5 games in a row. And then at that point, you don't pull the brakes on the train. You just let it go and let it roll out. And so I fully believe, based on what I saw, I know it was against Houston, but the fact that he was the best quarterback in the last 3 years with throwing the ball downfield for the Niners in that start led me to believe that he is ready to play quarterback for this team. This team would be effective behind him, and they could still win games. But with the intangibles like we talked about, the fact that they were the best team after week 8 in the NFL with a win-loss record, you just don't pull the plug on that train at that point.
Right. But I would say that's evidence that Kyle Shanahan believed that Jimmy gave them the better chance to win at that point, that the winning that was occurring was the momentum he believed attached to Jimmy Garoppolo, and that he went forward with that choice at that point. But I would agree with you.
Yeah, the statement
could absolutely come in.
The statement rings true. So CT Law, you're correct. I just believe it's for a different reason.
That's fair. Sean 951 Niners, 49ers 28-13. Defense shines, leads us to Super Bowl. Quest for 6. I love that prediction. I hope it is not a close one, as that predicts. I've got it breaking a little bit closer than that, and I'm sure that my heart will be beating very fast because of that, and I might have a heart attack. Lawless Light, if we beat them 7 times, then win the first bowl in SoFi, I'm getting a shirt that says we own the Rams. Lawless, I would love that. I think we might need to put out that merchandise, Randon. We might need to capitalize on this precursor and get that made so that we can jump on that train and sell it.
Between two beards, Levi South t-shirts.
Yes. Marcos Rios, I hope our squad is here to stay for the rest of the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Marcos, you and me both. This team seems destined for something great. Only time will tell.
Let's do it.
The Mullinator TV. Hello from Pennsylvania. My brother is a Rams fan. Sunday is going to be a rough one. Randon, you can relate to this with your mother being a Rams fan. Will there be some family tension occurring on Sunday for you as well?
Probably not. My mom's my mom, and she's like, if your team wins, it's okay. Like, it's like that kind of thing. But we used to have a bet, when I lived back in California, where we would bet a bottle of wine or a bottle of scotch every game. So
Ooh.
that was back when let's see, like 2012 to 15. So we had a pretty decent team in that range. And so I won quite a few bottles of liquor.
Hey, how about that? Well, I'm hoping that even though there won't be a bottle of liquor, it sounds like on the line this weekend, that if there were, you'd be winning it anyway. Todd Anderson coming in, Packers fan around me Saturday. We're calling it the snow globe game, and it looked exactly like sitting in a snow globe watching a football game. We now always refer to that as the snow globe game. I like that name, and it felt that way. When again, I had a moment at halftime where I literally was feeling a little bit dejected, feeling like, maybe we won't take this one. But again, I looked up and I saw the snow falling under the lights of the stadium, much like the snow globe effect you're talking about here. And I just got a warm sensation that washed over me. I know that sounds strange. Maybe it was the cold setting in and making me, a little bit loopy. Maybe it was the bratwurst that I had downed moments ago playing havoc with my digestive system. Yeah. but I had that feeling wash over me, and it became something special. I tell you, that's going to be one I tell people about for a long, long time.
Yeah, it was definitely, it seemed magical on television, and for you to experience that live is something special.
Yes, it is. Andrew Flores, Shanny has been talking a lot about each team knowing each other well and there being no surprises. Surprise, Trey Lance? Let's use that to springboard forward into our knowing your opponent category that we are bringing to the table, our knowing your opponent topic, because I think that Andrew, has something here that you're talking about two teams that have played each other quite a bit. The 49ers, this is obviously the third matchup of the season. You want to question, will we see something totally different, as Andrew is suggesting here? Will we see Trey Lance? Does it set up for that? Or will the 49ers keep it simple, stupid? Will they just do what has worked historically for this team? Over the last two matchups this season, the 49ers ran the ball 75 times for 291 yards in those two matchups. Pulling some stats from Jordan Elliott, one of my favorite follows on Twitter. If you don't follow him, you should. Again, that weakness for the Rams is the linebacker core. In attacking them, the 49ers are 29 of 36 for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns, throwing over the middle versus the Rams this season. That is an 80% completion percentage and 8.8 yards per. I mean, crazy stats, right? To me, that bodes well for keeping it simple, stupid. That, to me, that's the reality, is you're better than this team. You're more physical than this team. Just do what you do well. Randon, do you think they should pull out the stops and get a little crazy, or stick with what works?
I don't mind wrinkles. I think maybe if we're down in this game and then maybe you try something crazy. But what Jordan Elliott's stat bodes well is what I've been saying and you've been saying, is that the Niners schematically match up perfectly with the Rams.
Yes.
The wide zone run game relies heavily on the linebackers to plug up the gaps, moving horizontally to the outside of the field, right? And offensive linemen pick up people as we go. If you over pursue, the cutback lanes come into effect, right? And then the Niners can very much go off that, run counters, run power concepts, which they have increasingly done as the season's gone along, because I think half the teams in the National Football League run some sort of the wide zone run scheme because of coaching trees and what have you. So then you're looking at Jimmy G's best part of the field is thrown in the middle of the field. You're having those timing routes in the center. Kittle is one of your best players. Deebo on the quick slants. Ayuk down the middle of the field. It bodes well to attacking the weakest position group on the field, which is their linebacking core. And so our offense perfectly balances in the best way their defense. And we don't have to go one-on-one with Jalen Ramsey. We don't have to go one-on-one with Aaron Donald all the time to be effective. Where,
right,
like you say, maybe a game against the Packers, if it was Packers-Rams, Devontae Adams and versus Ramsey would be the news cycle all week long because
the
of
premier matchup.
Where for us, we moved Deebo Samuel all around. Like if you saw in this game, right? And I've said Shanahan does it a lot, where he folds wrinkles into different tapes. So you best believe he's going to throw wrinkles into not only the tape at Levi's, but at Levi South week 18, and build upon that. You saw it in the Packers game where Deebo, generally when he lines up in the backfield, either it's going to be a straight pass or it's going to be a run to him, but he's never really flailed out of the backfield for a route. And he ran a little angle route out of the backfield, caught it wide open, and got some yak yards after it. So I think a lot of these things is you got to test your bread and butter first.
Yes.
And then make adjustments if it's not working. If the Rams have game planned so well that the bread and butter isn't working, then Shanahan's going to have to do maybe something like bringing Trey Lance for a trick play or something.
And Shanahan is so good at doing what you just spelled out right there. So good at running the bread and butter to poke and prod at a defense and illuminate whatever that weakness is. And it may take him a little while. It may take him a quarter of poking and prodding that defense to finally find that soft spot. But once he does, he then goes and attacks it. And he attacks it with things that they've already shown the defense, but new wrinkles worked into it to build off of a concept that they've executed before and now confuse the defense in a different direction. It's really something to behold. It's miraculous when you consider what he's able to do out of the various formations that the 49ers run. And I look for them to be able to do that against the Rams. Kyle Shanahan is very comfortable calling plays against Sean McVay. He has confidence going into this one, and I do think that affects him. He's a rhythm play caller, and when he gets into a groove, man, it is a beautiful symphony out there on the field. Omar Lopez coming in here. Trey draft picks turns to a second and fourth rounder. Trey draft picks turns to a second.
He's talking about this year's pick. If we win the Super Bowl, or even right now, it's a bottom 4 pick in the first round versus week 6 when it was a top 6 pick. Right. And then that third round pick, it turns into an early 4th rounder. So there was somebody who posted it. It might've been Jordan Elliott too, where he said where they have in the draft, they have traditional draft scores for each pick. And what the score is now lowering for the package because of how well they're playing this season.
Generally teams only have first round grades on about 25 players. So once you get into that 26, 27, 28, you may not be getting a first round talent, even though you're drafting them with that first round pick. So agreed, it's magnificent that the Niners are lowering the value of these picks that they are sending out to Miami. Sean 951 Niners, which non-quarterback throws a touchdown this game? Mohamed Sanu, Kyle Juszczyk. That's an interesting one. Clearly, Deebo Samuel threw one against Ramsey in the last matchup. That was phenomenal. You would think they wouldn't go back to Deebo. They may be in their bag. I'm gonna go with D, none of the above, that we don't have a guest quarterback coming in to throw a touchdown in this one, but there are plenty of options. Juice, Sanu, Deebo, Ayuk can throw a pass, and then there's certainly Trey Lance that could potentially throw a pass. Do you think it's any one of those, or are you going none of the above, Randon?
Well, with the variations that we saw with Trent Williams being a fullback, it's only a matter of time where they do him on a little carry and then a little dump off.
Can we get a big man touchdown pass? Oh, that would be so sweet.
Could you imagine that if it was like Trent Williams is in motion, they shovel pass it to Deebo or something, he flips it back to Trent Williams, and then Jimmy Garoppolo is wide open in the end zone for the quarterback reception.
I would die. That would be the end of me. I would be the happiest man. That would be so spectacular.
Modified flea flicker with a big man passing touchdown and a quarterback receiving touchdown. That'd be the trifecta.
Oh my God. That's bingo. That is bingo right there. Yes, it is. All right, Jonathan coming in. I'm up on this turbine, ready to send my tools down, and just saw a whale jump out the water. It's a sign we're going to win the Super Bowl. Let's go, Empire. Jonathan is predicting it. You heard it here. Just about to send the tools down, saw the whale leap out to breach And that is the symbol, the significance that we were looking for. I love it. I love those types of predictions, and I love the energy that Jonathan is bringing today. All right, let's transition into that next topic about the trilogy, and this being that third chapter in these two teams coming together. Round 3 down at Levi's South. Love that. What is the recipe for going forward? So we look at this, the 49ers 6-0 in the last 6. This is going back to 2018 against the Rams. Jimmy also 6-0, but a different 6 games because that goes back to his game in 2017. He obviously missed some in between. The Rams in that time span since 2019, playing teams not named the San Francisco 49ers, 31-12, but somehow the Niners seem to have their number. Throw out this one last stat that is relevant to all teams playing that third trilogy game. There have been 21 meetings in NFL history between teams that have played for the third time in one season with a chance to sweep. The team that went 2-0 in the regular season has won that third one 14 of the 21 times. So history is on the Niners' side. And it makes sense because if you've beaten them twice during the regular season, you probably have an edge in that matchup. So to me, this one sets up that if the 49ers play a clean game and play a physical game and play to their identity, they will win this game on Sunday.
We just got to execute. We are better in the right spots against this team. And we have to; those players have to execute, and so it really comes down to a lot of things. You've hinted on, right? Stafford's one of the best quarterbacks being blitzed. We don't blitz very often. I'm going to throw this stat out here because I had to find something different for you. Where is it at here? So let's see, man, I'll find it again. Anyway, so the run game, right, against the linebacking group, the passes right down the center. You have us being effective, D'Amico Ryans being able to cover or call multiple coverages, getting to the quarterback with 4. It all bodes well where all the things that we do best benefit us against the Rams.
Yeah, totally. And the 49ers defense, these last 2 matchups against the Rams have done exactly what they need to do in order to put Matthew Stafford in peril, right? You want to get after Matthew Stafford. You want to drag him down. You want to force him to throw those turnovers. And in order to do that, you have to stop the run. The 49ers have done that this year. The Rams averaged only 58 rushing yards in those 2 losses this season. If the 49ers can keep that up with the return of Cam Akers, if they can hold the Rams to, let's say, under 80 yards rushing, I think this 49ers team does exactly what they need to do. They get after Matthew Stafford, only rushing 4 because those D linemen are rested because the Rams are not consistently chewing the clock, running the ball. And on the other side, the Niners are going to stick to that run-first identity and tire out that defense. To me, again, that's the recipe for success in this one, and it's keeping it simple.
Something that is something that I just thought of while you were talking is the how much more are the Rams going to be prepared for the crowd noise, right? It seemed like they were taking off kilter, and we saw it from a lot of players' wives. Stafford said we had to go to the silent count. We weren't prepared for that. They're definitely going to be prepared this time for, especially with the news about the ticket sales and all this kind of stuff and how loud it was. Just that alone, being prepared for that kind of thing might make a difference when it comes to how McVay calls for the Rams. It'll be interesting to see maybe if they go to more hurry up, right? And they're calling the plays like that kind of thing, and all those aspects. I don't know, the difference between silent count on a hurry up versus in the huddle and how that affects the team itself. That'd be something to, maybe do some research on, because I didn't play football at a super high level, but and I didn't play in front of 70,000 people either. So, but I think that might be a factor that is maybe understated, that the preparedness for the volume that they're going to see from Niners faithful.
Yeah, I do think getting caught off guard by that is something different, and they will be prepared for it, and it will be bulletin board material for them of sorts, right? This underdog mentality in their own home, being disrespected in that way. You know they're going to try and use that as motivation. So I do anticipate this one will break out a little differently. We're going to Sean 951 in just a second, but Raphael 562 Niners coming in to do a good service. I always like to say it at some point during the show. If you enjoy the content, I do ask that you hit that like button down in the corner. It helps amplify the signal for Randon and I getting it out there. And if you continually like the content, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We have flown past that 5,000 subscriber mark. We are nearing the 100 mark for the members of the sneakerhead community. People are loving it, and we love the interaction. Thank you so much. Sean 951 coming in. I would be nervous if this was Seattle. Rams just are not scary. 49ers have so much confidence against them and their scheme. Only chance they have is turnovers. That would be, certainly a way in which the Rams could gain the advantage. But let's also look into the talents on that Rams team. I agree with Sean in this one that I'm not made nervous by the Rams because of the fact that the Niners set up in a way where if they execute, they should be able to come out of this one with a win. I do think the Rams have added motivation, and I do think they have a wild amount of talent there on the roster. We're going to get to Cooper Kupp in just a moment. That's going to be the transition. But just in response to this one, Randon, are you feeling nervous about this? Or are you pretty cool, calm, and collected that the Niners are going to come in and handle business?
It's always pretty nerve-wracking in the playoffs, just having thought process and all that kind of stuff. But he's right. The fact that we've talked about this in previous episodes and just like your fans' reaction, right? Like, when we're playing Seattle and Seattle gets the ball in the fourth quarter and it's Russell Wilson, and you just get a bad taste in your mouth or you get that pit in your stomach where it's just, the Rams, we've had so much success. We come back from deficits. Even if we're behind in this game, you're going to feel more positive about this because, it's happened before. We can do this and that type of thing. And I think Sean's right with that. It's the nervousness isn't going to be as much as if we have a team that we consistently lose against.
Yeah, I agree. It's better to be the big brother than the little brother in that scenario, for sure. Coach B, never been to SoFi. Are the 400 level seats any good? Where are you guys going to be? Read out at SoFi. Go Niners. Look for answers in the comments from people who have been there. I have yet to put it just reminded me, I need to put my Green Bay Packers pin in the map. I'm going to do that right after this show because I have now been to Lambeau. I have not checked off SoFi because I didn't make it to that Week 18 game. Life got in the way. So I can't answer this one. I'm going to try to get some nicer seats. I like to wait until the end and play a little bit of a gambling game to where prices start to fall. It can bite you. It can really bite you. If you're going for best seats available, cheapest price, you're probably better off getting them sooner rather than later. I don't know about the 400 level, but I would assume these modern day stadiums, there are very few bad seats in the house. Most of these, they are very vertical. And so even though you may be high up, you still have a pretty good angle on the action. That's my take on it.
Oh, I've heard from podcasts that for people that went for the first time this season in Week 18, that the stadium is phenomenal. And they have a very good screen, that circle screen that goes all the way around. So you can see it at any level in the stadium. And then, you're going if you're going 400 level, you're going to be farther away from the field than you would being lower. They have a really nice screen, and then you're going to have 60% of your fan base there to cheer, and the atmosphere is going to be fantastic. So yeah, let's read that place out. Let's
read it out. Let's do it. All right. So we are transferring to that Cooper Kupp topic that we talked about, not just another cup of coffee. I mean, he's having a phenomenal season. We got to give the guy his credit. As much as we want to talk about Deebo Samuel, and we have talked about Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp is setting some marks in this game that could stand for a long time. What's your strategy if you're DeMeco Ryans? Are you specifically going after Kupp and attempting to limit his production, or are you allowing him to do his thing and trying to eliminate everybody else?
Yeah, just throw some stats out here first before I answer that. There versus San Francisco, in the 2 games this season, he has 18 receptions for 240 and 1. average is 13.3 yards per reception. 1,947 yards on the season, 16 touchdowns, and 244 and 2 in the playoffs. And so, man, he's been electric, and he's been moved across the field all the time. And where you look at Davante Adams, primarily plays on the outside. Cooper Kupp beat us in that slot fade in week 18. He did the slot fade again to win that game for the Rams against the Bucks. And Odell Beckham Jr. is playing a lot better. Like I said, their passer rating when targeted is near perfect this season or in the postseason. So they're playing a lot better football. Stafford's been a lot more clutch in the fourth quarter. Like I said, he's a streaky quarterback, but he's an animal. And so where we talked about with the Packers last week, I think the game plan with our rush defense, Akers, we know that he can be clutch, but he hasn't been in the playoffs since he's been back from injury. Really hasn't found that spark. They haven't gone back to Mitchell too much. He had multiple fumbles last week against the Bucks. And so if the Niners can take away half the offense for the Rams, then they know that it's going to be a passing game, right? And then you can do more stunts. You can do more of these types of things. If they want to bracket Kupp, I don't know how you do that since he moves around a lot. And so, maybe they play cover 6 and rotate the safeties like they did against Green Bay. But I think his short area quickness and able to slot all the way around the field makes him harder to scheme against than maybe a prototypical big wide receiver on the outside.
It's interesting to see. I mean, I guess I would feel the same way if I were a Rams fan, but Ramrod coming in. Deebo's a great player, but Kupp has it all. I think I would go the opposite on that stance, right? I would say Kupp is a great player, but Deebo has it all. I think if you put Deebo with a quarterback like Matthew Stafford or in the future with Trey Lance, that's when I think you begin to see what Deebo can do. But this is a Kupp appreciation piece to give him his due. And so, Ramrod, as much as I may disagree in that comparison against our star, what I will say is Kupp has been spectacular, that he deserves the credit he's getting this season. He's very difficult to completely eliminate, and therefore that would be my strategy. Much like the 49ers playing the Packers, they did a lot of things to try and eliminate or at least reduce the effect that Davante Adams would have on that game. They covered him in multiple ways, and yet he still led the team, tied the team in number of receptions, right? Both he and Aaron Jones racking up 9 receptions apiece. They were feasting because Aaron Rodgers continued to just force feed them the ball. You could see another scenario like that for Cooper Kupp. If you're able to limit the players around the team, you talked about Cam Akers last week having some fumbleitis. He's still a bit rusty. The 49ers historically in this matchup have stopped the run. If they can do that, if they can stop the run, get after Stafford with just the 4 down linemen, I'm not as concerned about that damage that Cooper Kupp is going to do. I think he will get his. I do think Cooper Kupp will probably have 80 to 100 receiving yards in this one, and I'm not afraid of that. As long as the Niners can limit the damage that other players can do, I do think Cooper Kupp will get his.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes you have to tip your cap, right? But if they can eliminate the run game and they can get the pressure without blitzing to Stafford, then you're eliminating multiple parts of their offense and all that kind of stuff. I will say I like the way DeMeco Ryans handled Adams in key situations on like 3rd and 9 and all those things towards the end of the game. Maybe double up and bracket him and take that risk that of OBJ or Higbee beating you. And Van Jefferson's one of the best 3rd wide receivers this year as far as total yards. So, but you take away their weapon and hope that works out. But Kupp is having a monumental season, his best season ever, and probably one of the best seasons for a wide receiver ever in the history of football. So you just got to tip the cap and hope that DeMeco Ryans has the timing that he had last week against the Packers to eliminate him or depreciate his impact on the game.
Yes, yes. You got to have that perfect timing. And I do think it's about cutting off the head of the monster here. It is about getting to Stafford. So that's the transition to the Stafford strategy. What is the best way to approach beating Matthew Stafford? And are the Niners built for that? Again, I'm going to dip back to Jordan Elliott coming through with some really clutch statistics when talking about Matthew Stafford facing the blitz from opposing defenses. He has posted 9.3 yards per attempt, 74 and change percent completion percentage, and a 15-1 touchdown to interception ratio. It is wild under pressure to be able to deliver like that. Now, the kryptonite to that is what the 49ers have been able to do, is getting pressure on Stafford without having to blitz him at a high clip. The 49ers have been able to pressure Stafford on 41% of his dropbacks, nearly half of his dropbacks, while only blitzing 14% of the time. Forget about it. That's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I found that stat, which piggybacks right off of your stat there. We're just going stat crazy right now.
Stat it up.
Per Battle Rivals and George, I think his last name is pronounced Simmery from PFF. Since week 10, the only team to blitz less than 20% of the time and have a top 5 sack rate and a top 5 pressure rate is your San Francisco 49ers. So that is perfectly built into what you're saying, is that even though they might bring a blitz from the outside, they're still only rushing 4. Maybe the defensive lineman comes out, that simulated pressure, or they all come in and they come back out, or do those kind of things. And so they're creating a top 5 sack rate and a top 5 pressure rate with the least amount of blitzes in football, less than 20% since week 10.
That is a pretty phenomenal stat. And let's say, Matthew Stafford has tossed multiple interceptions in each of those games this year against the 49ers. That could be critical. Again, those turnovers will be key, especially in a game where it favors the 49ers. You want those turnovers to be skewed in your direction, because it is one of the only things that on paper tilts this thing in the other direction, potentially for the Rams. And so if the Niners can rack up a couple of picks, get that pressure on Stafford, that seems like a very fitting way to tie this one down and get that road victory. Speaking of the road, let's talk a little bit about the faithful on the road. This is an interesting one that Josh Dubow threw out on Twitter, that the 49ers are actually going to be the first team to play 12 road games in a season with the playoffs included. The very first team to do that. The Giants set the record with 10 road wins in 2007. The Bucs had 9 last year, and the Steelers had 9 in 2005. It is pretty wild that the 49ers have been this road dog team. But I believe part of it is the fact that the 49er faithful travel so well. When you are going into a road stadium and you can feel that crowd getting loud when you're making plays at an opposing fan stadium, you heard people talking about it in the presser today, talking about it changing the momentum of the game, that you can feel it on the sidelines, saying that our team, the San Francisco 49ers, responds to that. I do think that the faithful's ability to travel has helped our record on the road.
Yeah, you look at it, and there was an interesting point. I forget who was saying it, but I was reading this article, and they were saying the lack of football teams in LA for over a decade has really hindered the creation of new fans, right? So the Rams were there, left to St. Louis, so they created fans there. But are those fans willing to travel from St. Louis to LA, where like the Niners have been around for a long time? They've had multiple decades of winning Super Bowls, 80s, 90s, and multiple Super Bowl appearances in the 2000s. And so, consistently creating that fan base through your family and all those kind of things really generates new revenue and the mass pool of fandom that you have. Where like the LA Rams don't have it, the Chargers definitely don't have it coming from San Diego. My friend's a San Diego Chargers fan, and he hates LA. He's like, I'm not going to go support them. So and then the Raiders bouncing around, even though they're a rabid fan base, they bounce around. And so when you don't have it gestating from the same city consistently, it's tough to breed new fans and have that fandom travel. And then when you've been around for a long time, I know it's that way for other sports too. My, example, I'll be in hockey, like
Right.
the original 6 teams, right? The 6 teams that were there for a long time, like those teams travel a lot because they've been around for a lot longer. And so they have more time to create new fans. And like typically those tickets are double what the tickets normally would be because they're coming into your hometown because all their fans only get to see their team once a year. Right.
Yes.
So like there's a lot to factor into that. But yeah, the faithful have been around for a long time. They've been good. So they've, multiple Super Bowls. It's not like they've been around for a long time and sucked. And so like that breeds the identity of a great fan base more consistently, in my opinion.
I agree wholeheartedly. And that absolutely will factor in on Sunday. Me and the rest of the faithful being there, making noise, inspiring that team will be a part of the storyline that is told when we look back at this amazing season. And I do think it comes from a franchise that has a rich history, that has traveled well, that was established early on in the NFL's history. And I just want to take a moment as we're closing this one out. I agree with Joe Mannix. This has been a great show. For all of you that are here right now, I think you're witnessing a phenomenal episode of Between Two Beards. I said it before, but throw out, if you have any information on invasion parties happening in LA, share it with the rest of the faithful that are here. I got that question specifically. Put it in the chat if you know of any areas that are hosting parties, get together for the 49er faithful. And as I said earlier, if you enjoy the content, hit that like and subscribe button because we are at the tail end of this one and we are headed into our final topic. And this one is going to be, how does this one break out? Do the predictions that we made about how the 49ers attack the Rams come to fruition? And if you're comfortable with it, Randon, how do you see this one breaking out?
Yeah, I don't really like to give score predictions, but I fully expect the run game to get back together. Total running yards, I would say over 140 in this game. I really think that it's going to be something big there. The middle of the field screams kill to me. I think he's going to have his first big game in the playoffs there. He dropped that pass from the absolute dime from Jimmy Garoppolo off his chest, which could have had a touchdown there. So I really think that you see that in the middle of the field, Kittle getting at it. I do believe that Stafford's going to try to be aggressive, and we are going to get a couple turnovers, whether it be interceptions or we've been pretty good at creating fumbles there. And then I'm going to say at least one big play over 40 yards or let's say over 50 yards for the Niners, whether it be offense or defense. I think there's really going to be an exclamation point at some point in this game that is going to bring the faithful off their feet.
I sure hope so. I am also predicting this one to tilt in the 49ers fashion. I believe that many of the things I've been looking for and have stated are advantages for the 49ers come to fruition, that they are able to limit the Rams' rushing attack, even with, as you stated, the return of Cam Akers. I'm not counting on Cam to fumble in this one, but I do believe the Niners hold the Rams beneath that 80-yard rushing mark. That's going to be critical to me, is stopping that run so that we can continue to pin our ears back and get after Matthew Stafford. I feel our offense will get rolling. We will attack the middle of the field. Jimmy Garoppolo will have a better statistical game than he has recently because that's his comfort zone. He loves to attack the middle of the field, and that's the weakness for the Rams. I anticipate this one being a pretty high-scoring contest, and I think that the Rams claw back into it, as is often the case when you're down, the ability to pick up some of those chunk yards and make it a bit of a more tightly contested contest at the end. But I have a pretty wide margin of victory considering all factors in this one. My official prediction coming out today, subject to change if we have any big injury news one way or the other later in the week, Niners winning this one 34-27. And I think that would be just enough of a cushion for me not to have a freaking heart attack in this one, Randon.
Well, that'd be a lot of up and downs all game. It'd be a lot of screaming and booing and screaming and booing and going back and forth, but I like it. I think the Niners really do have something, mystical about this season. And I think that this is going to be something good and get the W in this one. Whether it's over 50 points total for both teams, or it's a turnover slugfest or defensive slugfest, I'm not really sure. It doesn't really matter because a W is a W for me. And I hopefully, knock on wood, we get to another Super Bowl.
Yes, people are making some predictions as well. Raphael 5629 says Kittle is due for 150 yards. I love that. Paul Diego, hey, Paul, reach out to me. Hit me at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Give me your information, and then other folks can reach out to me as well, and I'll try and connect the two. Paul says he's got 2 tickets for sale. Are you a Niner fan, and are you offering a discount for fellow 49ers fans is my question there, because these tickets are redonkulously expensive at
He's
the
got
moment.
Niner stuff in his thumbnail, so that bodes well.
Yeah. That is, I should probably have seen that. Ooh, we got Raphael pointing out that Pink Lot is where the Niners fans are tailgating mainly. So again, good information here. People are predicting, Jan, it's a reasonable prediction there. Pretty close to true, I'd say. 49ers 70, Rams 0. Seems like a fitting score there. Chris Royal coming in, one of our sneakerheads, with the super chat to close us out here. Our team is close. They know next year will be a completely different team, and the finality of it is driving them to take it as far as possible. I agree with this sentiment. Juice said as much to Jimmy Garoppolo before the last Rams game, noting that it might be the final one. He said he was a bit surprised that Jimmy decided to share that. But I think for Jimmy, it was important to share that he's very cognizant of this fact, that this could be his final ride in the red and gold, and that he does cherish it, and that he does value his teammates and this very special bond that they all created together with the magical 2019 season, the bullshit that they put up with in 2020, having to go into Arizona and basically reside there for the second half of the season, everything going on with COVID, and then this year, a resurgence after a 3-5 start. Again, I think that there's some special mojo to this team, and I think the members of the team can feel it.
Yeah, I think it's something that's definitely been said multiple times, and it's really special. And I'm just going to enjoy every chance I can to wear the red and gold. I also, before we kick off, I've noticed a lot of Rams fans in the chat. Thank you for coming in and putting some variety into the chat. It looks like from the comments that I read that you guys were respectful and having fun in there. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, always appreciate the opposing opinions as long as they are respectful. And it did seem that way, that for the most part, it was handling itself in the comments there. Well, again, this was a spectacular episode. We went long. This was a 2-hour marathon episode. We got through a ton of stuff here. All of your questions asked and answered. A thrill to be here with you. Randon, it's always a pleasure having you on. Thank you for being a part of this wonderful Between Two Beards series that we have developed here, my good friend.
Hey, it's been fantastic. I enjoy every single minute of it. Between Two Beards. And I know that you've reached out to Jack Black, but again, if there's any sponsorship opportunities for maybe a small town beard company, maybe you have your own beard company or beard oil company, hit Rob up on that mailbag email, and we'd be love to support your product.
Yes, indeed. And look at that respect, mutual respect. There needs to be more of that in this world. Hey, cheers to Ramrod here for coming in. I like your channel and I'm a Rams fan. Hey, we appreciate folks that contribute regardless of where you come from. We're all football fans. We are all football fans. We love the NFL. We love to support our teams, and hopefully we do so in a respectful manner to one another. Because I stand by what I said earlier, that we all have the opportunity to influence other people that we come into contact with on a daily basis, and you would be surprised what a little bit of kindness can do to someone's day. It can pick them up. It can drag them out of a dark hole. It can be what quite literally saves them in that moment. Remember that, because your negativity can have the opposite effect. You can ruin someone's day. You can send them deeper down into a hole that they may already be residing in. You don't know what anyone else in life is going through. Therefore, treat others with respect. Just my 2 cents on it. But in that vein, Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Randon, for co-hosting as always. I will be back tomorrow. Going to have Jason Aponte on the channel at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then the usual 4 p.m. Sneakerhead call-in show on the channel for all the sneakerheads. Everybody can be there in the chat, but the sneakerheads will be calling in. Until tomorrow, and Randon, until next week, I'm sure we'll be chatting offline, but cheers, 49er faithful.